what made you like take that leap to like, all right, I'm all in. Like, I'm not just going to like source barrels, put it, my label on it or whatever. I'm going to really make this like
a heavy investment
and almost a legacy, or maybe of your,
I think that was really, it was, we all grew up around our grandfathers, great grandfathers, whether it was the brand itself or the brands that they had in their companies. We all grew up around that. And so, and none of the Dant family was in the bourbon business, at least that we knew of anymore. The last one retired from Barton's back in the late 90s. And so for me, it was really about bringing our name, that Dant name, back into being a distiller again. That was really the kind of the driving force behind that. And while I thought we could be really successful at it, it was more of the fact that I'd like to reestablish us as distillers again and being back in that business. And so, I thank the Lord that ultimately that there's a brand out there called JW Dant, and it's been around since the 1830s when Joseph Washington Dant was 16 years old, by the way, in 1836. Established distilling in a hollowed out log. And so that's how we came about log still. So it was that name. And
you already answered that question for me, because I was going to say,
it was a hollowed out poplar log, cut it in half, hollowed it out, banded it back together. He had copper tubing running up through it. Him and the Wathen family were kind of known for stilling on the log, as they said. And so making consistent product through that process, people liked it. And then he could afford his own copper and built his own big distillery back in 1860s in Dant, Kentucky. But that brand survives today. While we don't own it, we're not affiliated with that brand, that JW Dant distilled spirits brand. I can't recount history. I can't recant history. We did own it at one point in time. We sold it, and very proud of how that brand has done through the years. And ultimately, we're forging our own path at Log Still Distillery and making our own product, and happy to say that today we'll be in making, and I don't know, this podcast goes on later, but today I can say we're cooking our first mash in the big production facility.